Hello and good morning or good evening based on where you are in the world, Immutables. Welcome to our third ever community town hall, our attempt to bring the most transparent insights into our product strategy, progress, and plan for the year ahead. The last 6 months have probably been the most eventful for the company. We've had a ton of traction, executed probably the largest partnership in Web3 to date, and made significant product releases, which I'll be covering today. So let's dive in. I aim to keep these short, punchy. Please hit me with questions and feedback, and let's jump in. First, I wanted to start off again with Immutable's fundamental strategy. Our goal is to be the #1 ecosystem for NFTs, which empowers and rewards players and users. And our entire 300-person company is focused on Web3 gaming. It is pretty obvious that the next bull run will be catalyzed by even just one game with 10 million users, which will dwarf the monthly active user base of the rest of crypto combined. And our goal is to make sure we can have more games have shots on these goals and have higher chances of being successful. We fundamentally believe in digital property ownership, and our goal is to make sure that when people live in entirely virtual worlds, they're playing games or commercializing through games, this isn't owned by Meta and charged 52%, but instead we're actually empowering people to own their own stuff. This is why this is so important. And our flywheel is very simple. Onboard more games, make sure they win and are successful, create the strongest community in the space, and leverage that community to help win more games through exposure. And this forms the repeating flywheel that will help us change the face of gaming, better for players, and eventually change the face of all forms of unique value ownership. So I wanted to touch today on NFT.NYC, where we were the title sponsor, Consensus, and GDC. Some of the insights and trends we drew from that, and how we're thinking about events and what the space is currently doing. So the first thing I wanted to say is that NFT.NYC was very different to last year. First of all, there were nowhere near as many people. But second of all, there was nowhere near as many PFPs or collectibles going up and shilling their latest project to you. Instead, pretty much the entire event was focused on gaming. And it's pretty clear that A, the people at these events now are people with genuine interest in the space, or they're building, or there are some last dregs of the last bull run. But fundamentally, this is one of the better events. The signal to noise ratio was significantly improved from previous years. And it is quite clear that the majority of the focus of crypto and NFTs is tailoring towards gaming as it gears up to have an enormous amount of funded games go live over the next 12 to 18 months. And I think the reality is, if you look at the level of funding into Web3 gaming and how much funding takes to just create one hit, we have 50 shots on goal at a Call of Duty-like success. The last Warzone cost $200 million to build and at 100 million players. We've had over $15 billion invested into Web3 games in the last 2.5 years. 40% of them will be going live in the next 12 to 18 months. Some of my favorite moments were seeing the team at play at the booth, seeing teams like Metalcore show off their future of gaming, WagMe Games. You can see one of their characters in the middle there. Fun fact, that guy is actually a famous athletics YouTuber. I had done some of his lessons before he came into Web3. And the sheer number of Immutable games building on the ecosystem and brand awareness was really incredible to see as well. It was definitely a humbling moment for the team. The reaction to the Polygon Partnership has also been incredibly strong. So we've essentially just seen, since our announcement a month ago, pretty much everyone we were talking to in our pipeline has said something along the lines of, we were originally deciding between Immutable and Polygon. Now it is very easy for us to decide, or you've left us no other choice, which is exactly the point. Web3 gaming has been far too complex, and our goal is to simplify the choice for developers, give them the one-stop shop to build a successful game, give them the economic tools they need to be successful, and make user onboarding 20 times better than it is today, because it's absolutely rubbish. I'll go into that in a sec. And I think the other sense that was coming from this is there's a period now of, we've stopped a lot of the frantic infighting between major blockchains. It's pretty clear what platforms are going to be successful in the next 2 years for gaming and who's still remaining focused on this as a category rather than pivoting to it as the last sort of craze in whatever would attract investment in a space. And that it's a lot simpler now for games to focus on building exceptional quality games. I would say the two other trends I've observed are there are a lot of mobile games, particularly in Asia, that are looking to launch right now. People want clarity on compliance. People want clarity on how to interact with the App Store and Android Store. And we have a few updates here, which we're excited to share. And also there's a lot more Web 2.5, I would call it, where people are just focusing on building exceptional quality Web 2 games. They want crypto to be invisible under the hood. And that's precisely where we think the next 100 million, billion users of Web 3 are going to come from. And ultimately, one of the trends that we observed is people are bullish on ZK rollups and EVM, and we're seeing a lot of consolidation in this space. So actually the next few slides I wanted to share with you is what we're sharing with our customers to talk about this new Immutable ZK EVM product we're building as we expand and continue our StarkX Immutable X product, and how game developers. So the first thing is that we are fundamentally built for gamers. At the start of last year, we had $200 million in funding we just raised from Temasek. We had 5 games building on the platform. I think we had 110 people working in the company, and we had our work cut out for us. We didn't have as much funding as the biggest blockchains in the space. Web3 gaming has been the most hotly contested category in the blockchain space by far. And the only reason we've been able to attain first place in market share has been a ruthless focus on actually solving for the use case of gamers and developers, rather than building a broad blockchain that solves everything from DeFi to finance to gaming. And I think that ruthlessness has meant we've been able to come up with products that are fundamentally going to help gamers on board onto Web3 gaming without ever knowing they're using crypto. So I wanted to go through a few. The first is Immutable Passport, which will be coming to you incredibly soon. In fact, if you go to the Dev Hub right now on Immutable, we can drop a link in chat. You can literally try onboarding with Immutable Passport today. The team, this is one of the fastest engineering products they've released. We're increasing the cadence of engineering releases significantly. I think this is the #1 product that is needed to basically improve the conversion on performance marketing for games acquiring customers by anywhere between 10 to 20x. We'll be tracking this closely and what the historic cost to acquire a customer for these games have been versus the cost with Immutable Passport. So stay tuned. We're on time with this delivery. Super excited about it. The second is fiat on-ramps. And here we're partnering with a number of customers. MasterCard announced their partnership with us last year. And our goal should be, you can do whatever you want. If you want to pay the Apple fee, you can pay the Apple fee and onboard through that. If you want to pay with fiat on-ramps through web or through desktop or through mobile, you should be able to do that as well. Whatever users want to be able to do to pay for their assets, we have to simplify and make sure that all of those trades can connect to everything else via our protocol. That's our liquidity thesis, and that's how we're unifying fragmented liquidity across the space. I think I shared this stat already, but the stat I'm most pleased with over the last year is that our global order book product, which connects all marketplaces into the same set of trades, is already doubling the volume or revenue for games. We are doing half of our trades sold, say, in-game and bought on a marketplace like GameStop or Wearable. We expect this to increase massively and more games launch. And the final thing is we're building this ecosystem. Ultimately, the people tuning in today, the people tuning into our Twitter or Discord is going to increase by a factor of 10,000-fold, because as soon as the game has 100 million players, every single one of those players will earn IMX, will on board with a passport and become part of this global community of people who genuinely we want to empower to own their stuff and to ask for way more from game developers. So that's our mission on the community side and why this is so important. It's pretty clear the companies that are going to be most successful in the future are the ones that figure out how to share value and how to truly empower their customers to be their evangelists. So thanks for tuning in. You're part of the future. We're designed for developers. The reason we're positioning this is ultimately, even with smart contracts on Immutable ZK EVM, what we're solving for is an advanced use case of users. People who want to build their own custom smart contracts, games like Alluvium, for example, or we're building for people who want to build the swaps, the DEXs, the long short options, the index funds, all of the DeFi that is going to service gaming into the future, which we're tremendously excited about. Let's be clear, we're going from just one single app specific rollup to now having an entire chain we can play with IMX as the core gas currency. It's the most significant shift in our product surface area since launch. But our goal is to abstract all of this away. If you're a mainstream game developer, you should still be able to use Web2 core APIs in order to develop on Immutable, no matter what you're developing on. Immutable X on StarkX or Immutable ZK EVM. And finally, we are resolving liquidity fragmentation at every layer in the stack. And this is why fundamentally our product strategy is going to mean no matter what happens in 5 or 10 years, the best place to get the best price on any form of value, gaming asset, house, financial instrument as an NFT, will be Immutable. Because we are the global rails by which you can sell an asset in any wallet, in any roll-up, on any marketplace, in any currency, and buy that same asset anywhere else, which is the most important thing for where will people choose the platform of choice in 5 or 10 years. We've got a bit more detail here. I won't go into all of this today, but this is essentially what this platform looks like when we expand from Immutable X to include now Immutable ZK EVM, and also what will likely be hundreds of custom ZK EVMs built with this technology. I wanted to go through, and excuse the shoddy design, a few gaming and macro insights from abroad. I think the 2 big trends we've seen is there has been a huge, essentially increase in regulation in crypto and regulatory pressure. And we've also seen a lot of shifts in non-US countries and regions in terms of how they're thinking about Web3 gaming. The first, regulation. Part of the reason we chose Web3 gaming back in 2017, when we built the first ever multiplayer game on a blockchain, is that regulation is incredibly important in the space. And if you're on the wrong side of it, or if you're in the bottom 50% of products in terms of regulatory compliance, it's going to be very, very difficult to build to large scale. We never had any interest in building something that would be shut down halfway through. And that's why I think gaming is by far the most compliant category in Web3 today, but it is still incredibly important. And so a lot of what we're doing today is building the rails so that when games come and talk to us, we actually know here's exactly how you can build a compliant fungible token. We've just worked with a few clients on this in the Immutable portfolio, and we're making this as a free service to every single game you built on us. We're making so if there are changes around KYC requirements, Immutable Passport can adopt for that and instantly offer this as a service so you can seamlessly still buy all your assets. And if you're a game developer, offer all your assets. And that's how we're sort of hedging our bets. Either way regulation goes, we can be in a really strong position. And the second thing is I think we've seen an interesting trend, which is as the US clamps down on crypto in what I think is a very short-sighted move that will dampen technological innovation in a country that needs it the most, we are seeing actually a counter reaction in the rest of the world. The UAE, Hong Kong, Japan, all becoming incredibly open to crypto. Hong Kong literally just created a $50 million government fund for marketing for Web3. You have a huge openness to financial ecosystems because they've seen a large amount of capital and talent fly to Singapore over the past 2 to 3 years. They're now trying to make sure they're one of the most open ecosystems. This also means that this is being tacitly endorsed by China. So this is an incredibly bullish sort of macro signal from my perspective for that region of the world. In Japan, you quite literally have the government 4 months ago issuing a top-down sovereign mandate that Web3 gaming is one of 5 core areas of business focuses for the nation. You have some of the biggest sovereign funds or institutional funds in that country investing into Web3 gaming. I can't overstate how significant this is. We are seeing full steam ahead from Japan and South Korea for crypto. Obviously, we'll have some tax changes in Korea in roughly a year, which will, I think, sort of shift a lot of emphasis into Japan as well. So we're super excited. We actually just hired our first ever BizDev rep in Japan on the ground and won a game there. So we're moving very heavily into the region. Wanted to go over some quick Q&As, and I've got the live Q&As as well. So let's jump in. Key value out of coming from these major events. Everything we do at the company is measured on ROI. When the foundation does grants, we measure return on token spend. When we do marketing, we measure what are the MQLs or marketing qualified leads that come out of it. So how many prospects? What I can say is anecdotally from being at the event, pretty much everyone came up to me and said, congratulations for partnership, or we're seeing way more of Immutable. So a lot of this is Immutable has not been a strongly marketed platform for the last couple of years. We've really been focused on product. I think we're now stepping this up with the partnership and as we start to ship some of these games. And I think this is exciting because for our company, this is very low hanging fruit where we can very rapidly increase our awareness and become a household name in the space. We just hired Devin Ferreira, who is the former CMO of Avalanche, who is leading this as Immutable's Chief Marketing Officer. What games will integrate with Passport when it's launched? Many. I won't spoil here, but please go try it on the Dev Hub. Give us your feedback. We're super excited, and we'll be announcing as games integrate Passport, and also the actual impact on stats it has. We don't want to just be making empty announcements around they're using it. We want to talk about what the impact this has on their conversion and acquisition costs. Third, love this question. How are we making cross roll-up liquidity work? This is quite complex, but essentially it comes down to a few things. One is we always use the same security architecture no matter what we're building on. On StarkX, we're using ZK rollups. On Immutable ZK EVM, we're using ZK rollups. Also on Validium, so it's going to be around 10 times cheaper than the native Polygon ZK EVM. The benefit of this means you don't have the weakest link issue of bridges, which means that we can share state or share orders across these rollups, and we can guarantee that all of them have the same security properties. The second thing we're doing is building the rollup logic so that if you sell an asset on Immutable ZK EVM, you can buy it on another Immutable ZK EVM or the custom Blizzard Activision, for example, ZK EVM completely atomically. And we can make this a seamless end user experience because we have control over the rollup logic, and we also have control over the end user interface with Immutable Passport. So our vision here truly is you should be able to sell a game inside of Fortnite on a dedicated Fortnite rollup, and someone should be able to buy that on GameStop Marketplace or Rarible or Token Trove on any other Immutable powered rollup in any currency, in any wallet. And if we can do that, we've created a global exchange for any form of unique value, which will be one of the most important economic primitives over the next century. There is 100 times unique value than there is non-unique value in the world. This will make Coinbase and Binance, the size of this is immense. And the most important thing is that we give users ownership and property rights, and we give the developers or creators of content powerful economic guarantees, things like enforceable royalties. And I've covered Reg at the last piece as well. I think we're going to see a very interesting next 12 to 18 months in the US. We obviously have people like Brian fighting the good fight on the front, and we're certainly doing a lot of work in Australia as well. But I think it's incredibly bullish for where we're already spending a ton of our efforts, which is Asia and mobile. The thing that I always respond when people say, how do you think about the Western response to NFTs in gaming right now is, well, first, it's a very limited perspective, because a huge chunk of gaming revenue and users is in Asia, and they have literally zero resistance to this as a concept. You have some of the top 20 studios across Japan and Korea are all actively building prototypes of Web3. Some are even going all in like Nexon. And so really the reality is there's these two streams, and if we can prove out a use case here, we can prove this is a better model for gamers, this is going to follow. So that's kind of our view. That's how we're playing both sides. I'm just going to read the chat. We've got a few more questions. If platforms such as Sony PlayStation or Microsoft Xbox wanted to take part in Web3 gaming and NFTs, how would they be able to do so? And what role would Immutable X play in their involvement? Great question. Our goal is to be integrated into as many different developer environments as possible. We recently announced and launched our Unity SDK integration, which means that if you're a game developer building in Unity, where 2/3 of game development occurs, you can very, very easily integrate a real Web3 economy or assets into your game without ever leaving the experience of Unity. Our vision would be to do this for anyone building on any platform. And the goal of Immutable Passport is this single wallet can be used on mobile, can be used on desktop, can be used in iOS or in Android, and also for platforms. So this is not the immediate priority, but certainly as soon as these companies are looking into Web3, we will be in those conversations and we'll be helping support them move into the space. I think the best example here is probably the Epic Store. A lot of these platforms, their goal is just maximize content, maximize volume. The Epic Store certainly has incentives to make app stores in general more open. And that's why we already have, I think, 5 games launched on the Epic Store today. And they're being very, very open in the way that they work with Web3 content. There's a few other questions. What different token utilities are we excited about? Many. So I think the most fundamental change is IMX becoming the gas currency of the Immutable ZK EVM. And we have 2 more updates just pending some sort of compliance and regulation internally that we'll be sharing in the next few months. Is Immutable in talks with Unrecord Game from France? I'll get our biz dev team to get back to you. I would assume yes. If there's a Web3 game, we're probably in contact with them. We typically, when we hear about a game, we know about it already sort of 90% of the time. And we've just launched our Scout program where we have people in Discords all around the world finding games and sourcing. We just were introduced to a game with 10 million players on Facebook through one of these Scout programs. So that's proving incredibly effective. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Please leave your feedback as always. I hope these sessions are helpful. My aim is to be as transparent as possible in building this community. I think it's how we make it as strong as possible. Quite frankly, this has been probably the best 6 months for the company's progress. We have a lot more to do, and please expect the most of us as we make digital worlds real and make Web3 gaming a reality for gamers everywhere. See you next time.